What is up, YouTube? I'm Devon DaVinci, leader of the Renaissance Crew, and you're watching DaVinci Reacts. This video is this is one that is actually interesting because I never really stopped to ask questions like how this happened, but at the same time, when I think about it, chances are it happened the same way most alliances throughout history happen. They have some other common enemy and join forces to fight them, and it's like, hey, I like the way you fight. Hey, I like the way you fight. You want to make some trade routes or something? Like, that's usually how it tends to happen. So this video is called When Did Britain and America Stop Hating Each Other? It's a short animated documentary. It's about 4 minutes long. So this is going to be a rather short reaction. Or maybe. It depends on what pops up and what interests me. I might talk more about stuff later. This video was made by History Matters. I do encourage you guys to go and check out the video. I will have a link for the channel in the video right here somewhere, the last 30 seconds or so. I highly encourage you guys to check this out because history channels on YouTube in particular have been getting hit hard by YouTube. Like, getting videos demonetized regardless of the context or sometimes even the subject matter. Videos that just get demonetized, and there's a lot of history YouTubers that are having to find means outside of YouTube in order to make money, whether it's through Patreon or starting their own websites or banding together to create another website. Show your support for history channels on YouTube if you happen to be fans of them. This person does have a Patreon, so I will actually link the Patreon for History Matters. If there's a YouTuber that I'm reacting to that happens to have a Patreon or something like that, then I will try to leave a link somewhere so that you can show your support to them. Even if you don't go and watch the original video, which I encourage you to do, go watch the original first before you watch this reaction. But if you, let's say, don't feel like it or something, but you want to show support for the content creator in another way, Patreon is a good step. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into this and see what this has to offer, because I never really stopped to question what happened. But whatever.
It would be an understatement to say that Britain and the USA's relationship got off to a rocky start. In 1812, Britain and America were at war, but just over a century later they were fighting shoulder to shoulder in World War I. Which obviously raises the question, when did Britain and America become allies? There had to be a point where both went from actively disliking each other to working alongside each other. Now, before continuing, it's important to note that even in the immediate aftermath of independence, America and Britain still had strong economic ties. This isn't to say that things were always great between the two, and there were some pretty major conflicts of interest in the years after the War of 1812 finished. The first, and perhaps the most obvious, was the Monroe Doctrine, established in 1823. This was where the United States, by threat of military intervention, declared an end to any new European colonial adventures in the Americas. And for Britain, this was potentially a problem because it had economic interests in South America. In reality, though, it wasn't too much of a problem at all, because in 1833 it landed a force on the Falkland Islands and America did nothing. In 1842, the US did warn Britain against interference in Hawaii, which Britain did heed because America's international power was certainly growing. And it was this fact that America was a rapidly growing great power whose interests could no longer be ignored, which would dominate Anglo-American relations for the following century. So the next major event which could have changed the Anglo-American dynamic was the American Civil War, which broke out in 1861. Britain had already abolished slavery at this point, and so you would think that it would have preferred the Union over the Confederacy. But you'd be wrong. Now, Britain had no great affection for the Confederacy and its slaveholding practices. Its preferential treatment was purely economic, mostly due to cotton imports. Britain did consider formally recognizing the Confederacy, and Anglo-American relations were severely harmed by what's called the Trent Affair. This was where the US government seized a ship with Confederate diplomats headed for Britain, which to Britain looked like the USA telling it who it could and could not speak to. In the end, cooler heads prevailed and Britain didn't get involved, although it did construct a very powerful warship, the CSS Alabama, for the Confederacy. And after the Civil War was over, Britain paid compensation to the United States. Thus, only 50 years away from World War I, Britain and America still didn't really care much for each other. So what changed this? Well, relations actually started to improve during Britain's border dispute with Venezuela in 1895. This developed into somewhat of a crisis, and the US intervened and arbitrated, siding mostly with Britain.
That's right. Colonial powers stick together. You like taking over countries, we like taking over countries. Let's be friends.
For Britain, America had conducted itself in a well-mannered fashion and given Britain most of what it had wanted. And for America, by accepting American arbitration, Britain had yielded its right to influence South America. The other reason for Anglo-American rapprochement was simple: converging interests. America had emerged from its civil war a more centralised industrial power, and after its defeat of Spain in 1898, it possessed a global empire too. And for Britain, things were rapidly changing as well. Its empire and global position was being threatened by Russia and the newly formed Germany. Britain had long practiced a policy of isolationism with respect to the European powers, but since they too were industrialising, this had the potential to threaten Britain's position. Thus, her most natural ally seemed to be the United States, since it was half a world away and had its own sphere of influence, plus they spoke the same language and shared many values. It was at the turn of the 20th century under President Theodore Roosevelt that America and Britain really started to become friends, particularly with respect to one foreign policy stance.
No, that's because Theodore Roosevelt is just so friendly. Everybody wants to be friends with Theodore Roosevelt. The guy was awesome. He was like the Winston Churchill of America, which, by the way, I did react to the Winston Churchill versus Theodore Roosevelt epic rap battle. So if you want to see that, there should be a card somewhere in the video.
America and Britain really started to become friends, particularly with respect to one foreign policy stance. They didn't like Germany. This agreement allowed for Britain to move its fleet away from its Caribbean colonies back to Britain to defend itself from Germany, while security in the Caribbean would fall to the US. After the First World War broke out, Germany's actions such as U-boat attacks on American shipping and the Zimmermann telegram, combined with the fact that if Britain and France lost the war, they wouldn't be able to pay their American loans back, assured US intervention on their side. And from that point onwards, both the US and UK were largely in the same camps, barring a couple of mishaps here and there. I hope you enjoyed this episode and thank you for watching, with extra thanks to these patrons you can see on screen for their continued support. And an extra special thanks to James Bizanet, David Archaeologist, Azarka Flash, Danny Maloney, Party Boyko, Kulin Castleman, Rob Waterhouse, Chris Wicker, Gustav Swan, David Silverman, Winston Kaywood, Christian Cheke, Maggie Paxkowski, Lexi Schwinn, Anthony Beckett, Robert Wetzel, Sky Chappelle, Ike, Spinning...
Alright, I'm gonna let it wrap up right there. As you guys know, History Matters, if you haven't seen it, their channel has a ton of different videos dedicated to like information regarding history, usually in little bite-sized videos, which makes them fun. You will be binge watching like a ton of videos, trust me. If you're a fan of history, go to their channel and you will see like a ton of videos that'll pique your interest, and then you'll just be clicking. But yeah, I saw this and I knew, because I have a lot of UK fans and fans in Ireland and fans all over Europe, that like members of the Renaissance crew, that I had to check this out. I knew this would be something that'll probably interest a lot of people. So yeah, like I had a feeling it was probably something related to like having a common enemy and us wanting to we have an interest in something that we like shared, and at the end of the day, it's more convenient for us to work together than it is for us to not work together. You can kind of think of America and the UK kind of like Goku and Piccolo. And maybe Germany is Raditz. And it's like, okay, well, we gotta stick together in order to fight this new threat. But yeah, like that's what it comes down to. Like I said, that's how a lot of things tend to be. Sometimes it's more of a financial thing. Like it's more convenient to have like to share money than it is to fight. I feel like that's more so like America and China as of right now, because we're not allies, but at the same time they're like one of our biggest business partners. So it's like, we make a lot of money, let's just go ahead and do that. That's actually one of the reasons why I believe that the world hasn't seen another like big time major war between one of the top economic countries in the world, because they make so much money together that it would almost destroy the economy, and like for one of those countries to go to war with itself or with each other. So it's like, if we do see a war like that, I feel like it'll be segmented. Like there'll be a specific thing that they're going for, and once that thing is over in that country, that's it. Like they're not attacking anything else. America, we had a chance to grow a lot because of a lot of it has to do with our location. We have pretty much two borders with two countries that we're strong allies with, which is ironic because early on we weren't allies with Mexico or what would become Canada, but business ties and things like that, over time it just makes people friendly. That's another video entry that I would like to see. What made Mexico and America allies? Because I know World War I with the Zimmermann letter, the Germans were trying to get Mexico to fight the United States. They didn't get the letter, but I'm wondering what Mexico would have done if they did get the letter. Like, would they have gone to war, or would they have been like, nah, we're good? But either way, that's been this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to like button, subscribe, and share. If you have any other history ideas or topics, go ahead and leave it in the comment section down below. And if it's something interesting, I will try to find a video related to it, and I will do a reaction to it. If you guys haven't already checked it out, like I said, be sure to check out History Matters, which will pop up somewhere around here, and check out their channel, subscribe to them, things like that. I promise if you're a history fan, you will love their stuff. And with that being said, I am Devon DaVinci, and hopefully you've just been a little bit more enlightened. So I look forward to seeing you guys on the next video, and I'm gonna give you the deuces. Peace.